What's really the future prospect of not just OMCs but the entire energy sector, and who better than MK Surana, the former CMD at HPCL, joining in on the show right now. Mr. Surana, hi, morning. Great to have you on ET Now, and what a move coming in on OMCs as well as ONGC of late. But given that crude has remained largely below $80 to a barrel, is it the right time for OMCs to take a price cut? And do you think they might have sort of recouped the losses incurred earlier on marketing business?
Good morning and glad to be on your show. So two things. It's good to see the OMC is realizing a part of their valuation after a long time. But as far as crude is concerned, I think with all the factors factored in, which keeps on varying from time to time, I think it is a realization that the crude is somewhere in 75 to $90 range. So the time of people expecting it to cross 100 or is not being considered anymore by the people now. So there is more stability in the crude prices and more likely to be around 80 in the near future. Now, whether the OMCs should cut down their prices, I also said earlier, and I maintain that it is a longer term view they need to take, that either they continue to vary day to day basis consistently, or they see a bit longer term visions to ensure that the spikes are evened out and the market is more stable as far as the day to day pump prices are concerned. Now, in the recent past, there has been some good margins and which would have helped them to recoup a substantial part of their losses from the past, or maybe all of the losses from the past. What view they need to see is that in the coming future, whether again there are possibilities of a hike, and considering the election year, where if the prices are maintained the way they are, whether they've got a threat of any under recoveries. And based on that perception, they can take the decision to cut the prices or bring it to the day to day. In my opinion, cutting prices rather than whether they can bring it to day to day variation the way it was. That may be the more opt way of doing it.
Right. But you think the run up recently is because of fundamental upside for OMCs, which the market is predicting, or do you think it's also a play of the fact that most of these OMCs were trading at very cheap and low valuations?
No, run up in the OMC is a result of, I think, multiple factors. So some are structural, some are marketplace, some are the direction and the momentum. So if we see few of these factors, one thing is sure that OMCs had been undervalued and market had not been factoring in the intrinsic value of the OMCs for some time. And I think after 2018, there was a lull period in the OMCs. And what prices we are seeing is almost to the level what we had just before 2018, and is coming to that level. OMCs always had a great intrinsic value, and one more reason that many of the capital projects which these OMCs have taken in last 4 or 5 years are coming to fructification, and they will add up to their bottom line and top lines. The third part is there is a lot of money which is chasing the market, and normally the favorites have already overpriced. And now the people have started looking at the other strong contenders which were not valued, and the PSUs are one such lot which was not valued according to their intrinsic value so far. Though the oil sector and the power sector had their strength, at least some companies in the power sectors, power producing companies did have their strength, and as well as the oil and gas with both upstream and downstream companies. And that is getting realized now by factoring in the value by the market. And it has also got the fine balancing which the Indian government has done, and the diplomatic front as far as the crude is concerned, whether it is the Gaza issue or whether between Israel and Hamas or whether it is Russia and Ukraine. And the India has maintained a very balanced view on this, we unequivocally stating our position to ensure that we are not subjected to the crude price constraints or the premiums, unnecessary premiums because of that. Of course, some premium will always be there depending on the global conditions. But purely the supply demand local situation, it should not get impacted. And the last part is the Indian economy is in the pinkest spot, and it is India is a destination to watch And the whole world looks at the Indian stocks in a different light now than what they were looking. And that is what you see in some of the upcoming PSU sectors like railways and defense and all that. So I think OMCs are in a good spot. They had always been in good spot as far as the valuation is concerned. I think the market has also factored in one thing, that the green is not that green and the gray is not that gray, and the distance between the two is a bit more bridge based on.
Mr. Surana, that's all great news, but are these companies future ready? Eventually, EV is taking over, eventually, new sources of fuels are getting discovered. That could be 10 years away, 15 years away, but for companies which are in basically fossil fuel retail, refining, and distribution, the terminal value will come down. What is the future for them?
So, Nikunj, if I can just take back the history, when Euros fuels were coming, everybody thought that it cannot be made in so fast and so quick time, the country cannot change over. But all the deadlines of whether BS3, BS4, BS6 were met, rather ahead of the time it was met. Similarly, people thought that 10% ethanol blending cannot be done so fast, there is no production capacities, but it was done. LNG or CNG or PNG supplies also, the efforts were taken. So the oil companies do have their own strength as far as the execution is concerned and being ready for the changes in the market, and they had been adaptable quite well. In spite of the dominant PSU structure, I think oil sector has been one such sector where the adaptability to the situation and bringing in the new things had been quite good. That is what I have seen over the period of time, as far as technology is concerned, as far as new business models are concerned, or as far as the change of the product line itself is concerned. That is how the oil companies had an integration of petrochemical, they had integration of gas, they have integration of LNG, ethanol blending, green power, and the 2G and 3G fuels in the system. And I'm sure that the actions which are being contemplated and taken even on the green hydrogen, etc., as far as technology is concerned, as far as economics is concerned, so they are quite at it. Not all becomes visible all of a sudden, because market is used to see the result which comes in terms of immediately whether it is adding to the top line or bottom line. But we need to realize that the oil and gas sector is one where there is a gestation period for fructification, anything, even if you set up a refinery or petrochemical plant. And I think they are at it, and they are taking, and ably supported by the government policies and the push also. And therefore, I would think that I don't see a risk of these companies not being ready for the future. But what is important is we need to be clear about what should be the future, and it will be incorrect to adopt a Western model to India completely in terms of our transition is concerned. India has got their own way of looking at the energy demand, energy accessibility, support, security, and the total ecosystem and the social system. And I think it will take slightly longer, or it need to take slightly longer, and we need to follow a path which suits to our country.
It is fucking 31.
All right. I just wanted to get in your take, because in the budget, the government had provided for around 12,000 crores as subsidy. Do you think that this will be sufficient, given that we are seeing LPG prices rise as well as domestic prices being unchanged?
So there is nothing called sufficient as far as subsidy is concerned, or nothing is called more. So these are all the estimates which the government makes, which the oil companies make in the beginning of the years. And we need to go as it goes. Sometime it is a longer time it gets evened out. Sometimes the shorter term it gives them stress. But I think they would have done some intelligent guesswork on this to provide for the subsidy for LPG. And if the situation demands, then the appropriate actions will be taken accordingly.
All right, Ms. Surana, appreciate your time. Always nice to have
Thank
you and
you.
get your insights. Mr.